to the Daily Fantasy Edge. Peter Jennings, go by CSU Ram 88, across the daily fantasy industry. And of course, joined by Adam Levitan and Al Zeidenfeld. And we have a very special edition of the DFS Edge because we have on good authority from the people at DraftKings that if we fill the listener league this week, we can get it to 10K entrants, which
Whoa.
life mission.
Yeah. You're putting words in mouths now.
Whoa. The good people at DraftKings did not say 10K. They said they would hashtag make it bigger. They did not say 10K.
That implies that it's going to be 10K.
8,012 entrants.
I thought it was I thought that was what we had agreed to, 10K.
I think he specifically said that he couldn't promise 10K, that he promised to make it bigger, though.
Okay. All right.
So the hashtag make it bigger campaign can succeed if only the listeners will fill the listener league this week. And the earlier you fill it, the bigger it will probably get.
Yeah. 8,000 person listener league again. If you don't know how to get in by now, I feel bad for you. Just go to DK Playbook, find the logo, find the link. It should be very, very, very easy. As we've stated multiple times, you cannot find the link to the listener league. You might as well not play DFS because you're just drawing dead anyways. But yeah, if we fill it this week, they'll finally make it bigger. Let's put it that way. And with Thanksgiving coming up, the worst week of the year, we might as well have some good this week with the listener league.
I'm gonna go ham if it doesn't get to 10K by the end of the year. That's still my life mission. Still, there's no incentive for me at all, but it's still a mission. Al, how's life in the Twitch streets? How's killing zombies? What's going on in LA?
Things are good. The weather's warm. It's a nice, balmy 78 degrees here today, Adam.
Yeah.
Beautiful day. Sun is shining. We're doing what we can to recover from these fires out here. The firefighters did an outstanding job. The football game was moved from Mexico City down to Los Angeles, and the Rams, kudos to them for giving the fire departments and the first responders free tickets to that Monday Night Football game as just kind of a little bit of a thank you from the local sports teams. Does it make everything better? No, but it's nice to see people in Los Angeles really come together in a lot of different ways to help out the victims of the fire and the people who were the first responders. So for me personally, things are great. For the city, things are getting back together. So it's kind of a good time.
Yeah, and that's going to be an amazing game. Obviously not on the main slate, but Chiefs-Rams could be a potential Super Bowl matchup. Adam, any final notes on the podcast before we move into the main slate here?
Yeah, I wanted to give a quick update on the Thanksgiving schedule. Next week will be a 3-pod week, solo pod as usual, recording Tuesday morning. We're going to record 2 podcasts on Tuesday night before we all travel and have family obligations. Well, these guys do. I've told my family that I am doing absolutely nothing with Bird Carcass Day, so I'll be on my normal schedule. But these guys will be traveling and being with their families. So we're recording on Tuesday night a special Thanksgiving slate. Thanksgiving slate, I think we all love the Thanksgiving slate, one of the best slates of the year. Only 3 games, but there's so much action and every play matters. It's so good. Everybody's watching. So we'll have a special pod, the 3 of us, for the Thanksgiving slate. And then we'll also record on Tuesday night a first look edition for the main slate that week. Obviously, Tuesday night opinions are not going to be formed for the Sunday main slate yet, but we'll go through it and talk through it a little bit then as well.
So wait, do you, just for clarification, Adam, do you eat pie? On Thanksgiving, will you eat the desserts at least?
I'd prefer not. Pumpkin pie is not really for me. I like a good chocolate pudding pie or something like that.
Yeah, I'm big on chocolate cream pie. That's my favorite pie.
Yeah.
That's it. Pie. You're maybe if somebody brings a chocolate cream pie, that's all you'll eat. Otherwise, you're ordering Panda Express.
I get some good shrimp lo mein on my way to the Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah.
Al, we're going to have to go through some power rankings of some foods, always, on the Thanksgiving pod. We'll have to give Adam the chance to redeem himself on his absolutely pitiful takes that he's had on Thanksgiving food for, the 3 or 4 years previous.
Just polluting the fantasy football universe with his horrible Thanksgiving takes.
Yeah, Levitan, your stock is going down on every Thanksgiving when you just give out these egregious takes.
They're actually the right takes, but that's okay.
All right. Enough on Thanksgiving food. We'll hit on that next week. Definitely excited for the Thanksgiving slate as well. It's super fun. And Adam and I both share the same sentiment. We are degenerates on the big family days, but it is what it is. The Bengals at Ravens is the first game on the main slate here. And we do have really big news, Adam, especially at the quarterback position for the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Joe Flacco is questionable right now. Did not practice on Wednesday. The Ravens are playing it close to the vest. They're playing it so close to the vest that they won't even say who will start if Joe Flacco sits. We assume it will be Lamar Jackson, but now there's rumors that maybe it's RG3, and maybe there's rumors that Lamar Jackson and RG3 both play in this game if Joe Flacco sits out. That's beat writer speculation, but still, I mean, it's tough. The thing is, if you could guarantee me a full game of Lamar Jackson, this dude's rushing ability is out of this world. Like in the preseason, he played about 2 games worth of snaps, 2 full games worth of snaps, ran for 136 yards and 3 touchdowns, like unstoppable on the ground. Now, throwing the football, he was a disaster. I mean, dude couldn't even throw a spiral, like a total disaster. But I'm not sure it matters, Al, at 4,700. If we can confirm that Lamar Jackson's going to play the whole game, he's going to rush for 50 plus yards, and his TD equity is high against the Bengals. Struggling defense, maybe like his TD equity could even be like half a rushing touchdown or something like that, if not more. So at 4,700, he would certainly be in play.
Struggling defense with the Bengals?
Yeah. Atrocious.
Like worst defense ever, right? On pace to give up more yards than the Rob Ryan Saints from a couple years ago. Bad. So if you're going to get a soft landing spot for your, wet behind the ears rookie, right? The guy who really is not actually ready for a prime time start. Can't really throw the ball extremely accurately. Reading defenses, pre-snap reads, a bit of a problem for him, but super amazing athlete that can make things happen. You're going to put him into a lot of situations where he can win. You're going to put him into some zone reads. You're going to put him into some RPOs. You're going to put him into one reads. If you read the defense, we're going to go to the right side for this route combination. If you read this in defense, we're going to go to that side with this route combination on that side, and that's it. They're going to run the Remember the Titans offense with 5 plays, and you could flip them and go to the other side. So that makes 10 plays that all he has to do is be able to execute on those. And then if you get in trouble, just tuck it and run, kid. This is a cornucopia, with Thanksgiving approaching, of fantasy goodness, to steal a line from Pete, at 4,700 if Joe Flacco can't go.
All right, let me put a little wrench in the Jackson.
No wrench.
They're talking about RG3 playing a potential decent amount. I don't know. I mean, I love Lamar Jackson. Yeah, if you want to chime in there.
Let me just be clear, because I sent the tweet that I know you're referring to. It wasn't the Ravens saying that. It was beat writer, and I think a pretty good beat writer for ESPN, saying that maybe he was speculating that RG3 could still get some snaps in this game, even if Lamar starts. It wasn't the Ravens saying that. So we'll see what they do. I really don't know.
Yeah.
To me, if he's named the starter, I'm going to be playing him.
Yeah, if he's named the starter for sure, and hopefully we'll get a little more information. I just think there's a little more risk. Like if he really struggles, I don't think they're going to have any issue going to RG3. And, playing preseason every week, I played a ton of Lamar Jackson, and he was awesome as a runner, like Adam talked about. But throwing the football, it was a stone disaster. So, I mean, there's a little bit of concern for me. It definitely knocks all the receivers out of play if he's named the starter for Baltimore. And on the Cincy side, I mean, I don't think it's a spot where we want to play anyone from Cincinnati going into Baltimore here in a division game.
Yeah, not expecting AJ Green to play again means John Ross every snap opposite Tyler Boyd. But I mean, this Ravens defense is so good, and they're so talented in the secondary, really like 3 or 4 deep in the secondary. So yeah, I think some people are going to try to play Alex Collins from this game. I think people are going to play Lamar Jackson, but I think that will likely be it. I don't think anybody on the Cincy side will be popular at all.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will be popular either. And the Lamar Jackson thing's interesting. I'm with you, Al. Obviously, the rushing is so nice, and he can rush for 100 yards. I mean, that's not out of consideration, especially with how bad Cincinnati's been. But don't just jam him in until we have a lot of clarity, because right now it seems murky to me, and there's a lot of downside with his throwing ability at this time. Let's go to the Cowboys at Falcons. Adam, we need the news and notes, and then I need an intervention. This is the most likely spot that I'll have all year to actually play Amari Cooper in cash, which a lot of people are talking about, not me. So that's not my place to dive into. You guys need to give the full analysis on Amari Cooper. I'm not going to say anything. But, news and notes and your thoughts on Amari.
Yeah, not a lot of injuries really looking at this game. The middle linebacker for the Falcons, Deion Jones, who the Falcons have missed so badly this year, could be back, but he's been out for so long. He just started practicing. It would surprise me if he played a full game. Everyone's going to want to play Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, running backs have been absolutely destroying the Atlanta Falcons on the ground, mostly through the air, but on the ground as well. Ezekiel Elliott, I think, is priced appropriately once we consider his downside. Like, everybody played him that game when he was at Washington. And obviously Washington's defense is way different than Atlanta's defense. But, what happens is the game got away from the Cowboys. And next thing you know, Zeke is stuck with like 7 points. And he has a ton of games with like 20 points this year, 15 to 20. And when he's priced in the same range as Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Melvin Gordon, I don't think Zeke is a slam dunk. I think he's an awesome play, Al. But I'm curious, before we get to the Amari stuff, if you think Zeke is a cut above or below kind of the Saquon, CMC, Melvin kind of guys.
I like him less than Saquon. Saquon's my number one back on the week. He's the guy that I want to get into as many lineups as possible. I'm fine with Ezekiel Elliott and cash. I really like him this week. We've seen him be way more involved in the passing game for the Dallas Cowboys this year, setting career highs, seasonal career highs in receptions and targets with 35 and 48 respectively so far this year. And now he gets the friendliest, DVP situation for running backs. This is the flow chart. Right? Running backs who have any involvement in the passing game going up against the Atlanta Falcons is the actual flow chart in 2018. Last year it was tight ends. Last couple years it was tight ends with the Giants, the Browns, whoever else. This year it's running backs, and it's running backs against Atlanta. He is going to be involved in the passing game. He is going to be able to get the ball on the ground as well, maybe 15 to 19, maybe 17 to 22 carries, somewhere in that range. But he should also get 6-7 targets in this game. As far as Amari Cooper goes, the embargo is off. The embargo on Amari Cooper is off. My issue, as always, with Amari Cooper when he was on the Raiders was that his volume fluctuated from week to week, but his price was always up there in the $6,700 to $7,300 range. He's way down now. He is not priced expensively at all. We're getting a bargain on a guy who has big playability. Gerri agrees with the pick. Pete is either going to make all the money or go broke this week. This is the greatest thing that has ever happened.
This is the greatest thing that's ever happened, Smith says. Gerri goes nuts during Amari Cooper.
You want me to give you a couple of actual stats on Amari Cooper here that why we're
targets,
one, it's the
targets.
price. Yeah, the targets have been there. The inclusion in the offense has been there. He's still as good of an athlete and explosive as he's always been. The price now, instead of being at like 67 to 7,300, is 54. So the risk is somewhat out, or at least it's diminished a little bit from where it used to be. The matchup is fantastic. Yeah, we look for Atlanta, to attack with running backs, but Atlanta is allowing the 5th highest touchdown percentage by quarterbacks this season. That's touchdowns per pass attempt. They're allowing a league high 4 red zone drives per game this season, and those drives have resulted in Atlanta allowing a league high 1.9 red zone touchdown passes per game this season. So the touchdown equity is up for somebody like Amari Cooper. The targets are there. Who else are they going to throw the ball to? Allen Hurns, Gallup when they get in the red zone? No. So it's going to be Zeke or Cooper. So if you want to throw Zeke and Cooper in a lineup and just try and soak up all of the touchdown equity that the Cowboys have, I'm not against that.
Adam? Talk some sense into this play. I mean, we just had the Gerri Bark. Al's giving out great stats, saying this is the greatest moment ever. I mean, there's a lot going on.
It's the greatest moment because you went like this when Gerri barked.
I have concerns that the Cowboys offense as a whole has a lower floor than people realize. I still think this is a bad team going on the road as a pretty big dog in a big game for Atlanta. I mean, if Atlanta loses this game, it's just over. It might get Deion Jones back. So I tend to not play Zeke as much as other people. And now Amari Cooper's situation, the best possible matchup to me for a wide receiver these days, which we'll get to in a little bit, is the Eagles. And Amari Cooper he played well. He didn't exactly light the Eagles on fire. So the price is certainly right. I mean, at 6,400, it's no way. But as Al said, at 5,400, we have to consider him. We'll get to a couple other guys in the 5K range that I think are also in consideration at the wide receiver position. But yeah, I'm okay with Amari. I'm not falling all over myself to do it.
Yeah, the Eagles game, I will say, he was wide open multiple times.
Yeah, but Dak's just not that good, right? I mean, that's part of it.
I mean, this has been the frustration of someone who # watches the tape, which Adam mocks me for. But he gets wide open a lot. He's great on the double moves, and a lot of it though is like he needs time to get wide open. And there's one play in particular where probably would have been like a 50, 60-yard touchdown for Amari, where he made a great double move and Dak just got pressure on him and didn't see him. So there's that issue. But, man, this Falcons defense has been so bad. I think Zeke playing well really helps Amari if they can establish the run and do play-action passes. But, yeah, I'm not going to give any advice whether or not to play Amari Cooper.
We used to think that Atlanta was a team that would funnel, like they were a funnel defense that would stop you from throwing it outside and funnel you to throw the ball to the middle of the field. The funnel right now with the Falcons leads directly to the end zone. It's an end zone funnel defense. It funnels teams into the red zone and supremely into the end zone.
I know we're spending a lot of time in this game, but we also should touch on Julio, who does have a tough matchup, but he's at home here. And then Tevin Coleman, Nito Smith, Matt Ryan at home. I mean, the Cowboys obviously are playing slow, but I think they should play well in this spot too.
Yeah, much more interesting to me is the Falcons side. I mean, yeah, Byron Jones, I think, is one of the rising stars of the cornerback position in the NFL, but he has not shadowed once this year. Maybe they do it this year, and maybe he has majority coverage on Julio, but, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, every week I feel like I write about Julio because, like, he's never owned enough. I always write about him in, like, GPP section or in cash or whatever. Like, dude is just smashing. I mean, Matt Ryan, 4 straight 300-yard games, 4th in the league in touchdowns. People don't realize how well Matt Ryan's been playing. And yeah, I think Matt Ryan to Julio stacks are always in play. And I will get to some quarterbacks that we like, but I think Ryan is right there to me with Cam and Breeze. I mean, he's a strong play too. For Peter specifically, I think maybe on Tevin Coleman, you've played him too much based on I don't know, man. Like if Ito Smith wasn't there, it'd be one thing, but also like the way they use Tevin Coleman's pass game role is like so hit or miss. Like 2 games ago, they used him as like a wide receiver, got like 7 targets, was running routes downfield. And then in other games, he sees like 3 targets. So, Tevin would be a little bit thin for me, particularly with Dallas and Leighton Vander Esch and these guys playing pretty well up front.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Tevin Coleman for sure. And I don't expect to play him much this week. I would say that's been a leak of mine this season, amongst other things on DraftKings. But yeah, Coleman to me is just a really talented player, and I've been frustrated how they've utilized him on the Falcons offense. The one guy who's been utilized well, especially recently, is Austin Hooper, who is certainly in play here as well. That's a lot of time on the Cowboys at Falcons. Let's move on to the Buccaneers at New York Giants, which is one of the higher totals on the week. Has a ton of fantasy goodness. Al already referenced he wants all the Saquon Barkley, who should be uber chalk on the slate out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's start with the injuries. Chris Godwin has an ankle issue. We know he's been playing not as many snaps as he should be anyways, but if he were to miss Deshaun Jackson, Adam Humphries, Mike Evans would be locked in. I mean, Mike Evans has been struggling badly. Got his lunch eaten by James Bradbury. Last week got eaten up by Josh Norman. Mike Evans' talent perhaps has been severely overrated by a lot of people, including myself. In terms of other injuries, the good news for Saquon, Levante David, the very good linebacker for the Bucs, is very questionable. Quan Alexander is obviously out. I think the Bucs team, which has been solid against the run in the past when they had Gerald McCoy and Quan and Levante David and Vinny Curry and all these guys, is struggling badly now. And we saw Joe Mixon just tear them apart a couple weeks ago. So Saquon is for sure an awesome play. We just don't see, like, the Giants have only been implied for 27 or more points like 3 times in the last 3 years. And this is one of them, even with Eli playing so bad. Like, I didn't think we'd find a spot for the Giants to actually be favored in a game with a total above 50 in the state of Eli. But here we are. So Saquon's in play, and Odell, as much as I hate to say it, I think Odell is right there with Julio and Michael Thomas as the highest raw projection for wide receivers on the slates. I mean, Odell has seen 10 plus targets in all but 1 game this year. If Eli can just play like a little bit below average Eli, Odell should smash this matchup out.
So wait, so you're saying that Adam Levitan really likes Odell Beckham Jr.?
I mean, when push comes to shove, I'll almost certainly play Thomas and Julio before him, but yes, I like Odell.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify for our tens of listeners that you, Adam Levitan, believe that Odell Beckham Jr. is a generational talent.
Oh.
Ty Freak, Odell Beckham. Yep. Things are trending.
Getting on the train. I mean, do you really need me to say on a podcast that you should play Saquon Barkley against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because if you do, I'm here on a podcast saying you should play Saquon Barkley against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm here for those people. Tampa Bay's allowing the 5th most yards per completion to running backs this season. Barkley catching everything that's thrown his way and getting a lot of volume in the passing game as well. Not really getting 20 carries, 23 carries or anything like that, but like getting mid-teens carries with his involvement in the pass game is more than enough, especially against a defense that's not going to be able to stop him. He's had, 4 plays that have gone over 50 yards this season, right? And Tampa Bay giving up yards in chunks. I love this play. I don't mind playing Fitzpatrick on the other side.
Yeah.
80% of the yardage that the Buccaneers have gotten this year is from the passing game. So like they throw it, they're like the pass happiest team in the league. They throw it like 71% of the time. So you can get involved there. Last week he exceeded value with 3 turnovers and no touchdowns.
Throws a touchdown to Mike Evans. Mike Evans catches it, and then while he's trying to bring it to his chest, throws it into the stands. Next one, fumble. Just a disaster.
Like the fact that you can get that much production just out of and he runs. Had like 35 yards rushing last week too. So like this is a guy who can get there just on yardage. If he gets touchdowns against the Giants defense, it's fine as well. The price isn't too high. If you want to fit him in, go for it.
I have Fitz on my list for GPPs, not cash, because I actually think there's
not a cash play, I think. Well, but like he's on my list of quarterbacks.
No, I think Fitz would be a good cash play, except I'm afraid he's going to get benched. Like this dude keeps turning the ball over. I thought last week they were going to pull the string on him after he turned the ball over so much.
Yeah, but like Cutter said, he's going to take over, right? Offense isn't going too well, guys. Let me take this over. No touchdowns.
I know. They moved the ball well. I mean, Fitz was so bad in the red zone. As somebody who had the Bucs in the Super Contest, I was extremely tilted about the way they dominated that game and could not score in the red zone. But yeah, I think Fitz is an awesome play. If he doesn't get benched, then if the reason you can play him is because like if he's playing so bad he's going to get benched, he wasn't going to win you a GPP anyway. So I think he's mostly fine. Maybe like 10%, 5% to get benched.
Yeah, this is a dream spot. I mean, you hit on it. I mean, Eli Manning's playing atrocious. Everyone knows that. We've seen totals, even against bad defenses, implied team totals for the Giants around like 20, 21 points. This is the most they've been implied for in years. It's a great spot for both sides of the football. I will note, too, the field was a big issue for Saquon Barkley, who had to switch cleats. He was falling all over the place, which really hurt him in some key spots, especially in the red zone.
Team watch the tape. Team watch the tape strikes.
Team watch the tape. I'm just going to stay on brand here. I think that all the guys are in play. This is not a play all the dudes spot, but it's close. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, I could be talking to OJ Howard. I think Mike Evans could bounce back. Love Odell Beckham. Sterling Shepard got a touchdown at the end of the game. Evan Ingram getting more involved. There's a lot of options in this game, which the Buccaneers continue to throw at this rate. That's great for the opposing offense, and the Buccaneers defense is terrible. So. I like all the plays. I do think Beckham is definitely a tier below Michael Thomas. I think he's probably close with Julio. Al, I guess, final thought, who would you rather have this week, Odell or Julio?
I'd rather click Julio, but if Odell's going to be massively lower owned in tournaments, then he makes a fantastic leverage play. I don't know that he's going to be, but I think they'll kind of be around equal ownership levels. My thing is like looking at just taking a snapshot of stats going back to Saquon Barkley. We're just over the halfway mark, right? They've played 9 games, the Giants have. Dude has 76 targets so far on the season at running back.
Yeah, he's a lock.
It's ridiculous.
He's a stone lock. And I guess the last question for you, Levitan, because this is one of the best games. Any chance you're alluding to all these GPP plays and guys you have on the list? Eli Manning make that list?
No, I mean, I think people
got to draw the line somewhere, Adam.
Where's the line?
The problem is with this game to me is like, yeah, the total is really high and it should be a shootout, but like, would it surprise you at all if Eli Manning versus Ryan Fitzpatrick turned into like 17-13 or like 16-9? It really wouldn't shock me, Yeah, I think it could. I mean, I don't know. It's like the games that I think are going to go over 50 points are like Breeze versus Goff, and like, you know what I mean?
Don't you put that evil on this game, Adam. Don't bring that in here.
Yeah,
This is a
I
good
feel much
game,
better
Adam.
I feel much better about Eagles versus Saints, and we'll get to that obviously. But I feel way better about Eagles.
Oh,
versus
well, yeah. I mean, I'd feel much better if Pete just said fantasy goodness about this game. Then I can move on with my life.
We have the Gerri Bark for Amari Cooper, and there's fantasy goodness between Fitzpatrick and Eli Manning. Let's move on to the Steelers at Jaguars, which this is a spot that I think you have to get right. It's a polarizing spot so far in the industry. The Steelers obviously playing incredible football, and we have a track record of them doing well. But Adam, you've tweeted out some trends here, and I'm not a big fan of playing Steelers and 1 p.m. games with Big Ben's kind of problems in these spots. So what are the news and notes, and how are you attacking?
I mean, I'm all twisted up on this spot. I really don't know. I mean, yeah, Ben has played well at 1 p.m. Eastern road games so far this year, only a 3-game sample, and the 18 before that, I mean, it was a massive struggle for him, 1 p.m. Eastern road games. I think the biggest question in this game is, like, do you think Jacksonville's defense is actually dust? Because, like, they're still top 5 in a lot of categories. Still top 5 in DVOA, still top 5 in passing yards per attempt allowed, et cetera, et cetera. They just aren't generating turnovers. They're not generating as much pressure as they did. This should be like a last stand kind of game for their defense. I mean, they're almost out of the playoff race. It is a home game. Big Ben 1 p.m. road. I'm tempted to lean on the side of no on Steelers guys this week, but it's hard to ignore that Antonio Brown has absolutely roasted the Jaguars the last 2 times they have played. And James Conner's price is adjusted down to 7,200, which is just crazy low for James Conner's role and his talent. So I'm most intrigued, I would say, by James Conner. The pass game still scares me a bit. And then I think there's some other thinner plays which we can talk about in here. Like, you know, when they played in the playoffs, Vance McDonald got 16 targets. Leonard Fournette is back fully healthy. So I think there's a lot of plays you could consider here. But my general feel is to kind of take an underweight or be lower on Pittsburgh than other people. I don't know how high people are, though, Al.
I mean, Connor's intriguing, but there are signals that with Fournette back, the Jaguars aren't going to be as pacey as they've been. Like, you look at how they've played over the course of the season. They're one of the fastest teams in terms of snaps per game, in terms of seconds per snap on the season. But when we break that down into games where Leonard Fournette played versus games where Leonard Fournette did not play, we see that the games without Leonard Fournette, they play the fastest of any team in the league. One play every 24.73 seconds. When Fournette's there, they run a play every 29.34 seconds. That's the difference between the fastest team in the league and like one of the 10 slowest teams in the league. So definite pace difference. So maybe the snaps come down for somebody like Connor. I think he can get into the end zone against this team. But you know who I think the best play in this game is? O'Shaughnessy.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
He's cheap. He's so cheap, and I want to spend on so many other guys, and I need to find a value tight end. And all the value tight ends have been that, were previously value tight ends, have been priced up. Even somebody like Heuerman in Denver, who saw a ton of targets last week, although I'm not expecting as many targets this week as he saw in their last game. 6-7 targets for Heuerman is not out of the realm of possibilities, but he's priced all the way up to like 3,700. O'Shaughnessy coming off of a 6-target game. We know that historically Blake Bortles has always utilized his tight ends a ton, not just between the 20s, but definitely in the red zone as well. He doesn't need to score a touchdown to reach value. If he gets me 8 fantasy points, 4 catches for 40 yards is all I need from O'Shaughnessy to make all the rest of the things work. And if he happens to fall into the end zone, pants are off, man.
I have a tight end below 3K you'll like better that we'll get to. I promise you'll like this guy better.
Yeah, there's another one at 2,900.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone, the 2,900.
I said in this game, though.
Oh, okay.
That other tight end is not in this game.
Correct.
I think there's validity to being twisted up here. You guys hit on a lot of the key points. First of all, this is the last stand for the Jaguars. They have to win this game. They're a 5-point dog at home, which is crazy. Fournette coming back is a huge deal. Like, if you're the Jaguars, how do you win this game? You play good defense, you run the ball, Blake Bortles doesn't make mistakes, you keep Big Ben off the field. Like, that has to be their game plan here. On the other side, though, the Steelers are playing their best football that we've seen all season. Last game they played, they just trounced Carolina. They don't have Le'Veon Bell hanging over their head anymore. And everyone's priced down. I mean, Antonio Brown below 8K, Connor 7,200, Big Ben's cheap. So I'm really trying to kind of unpack this game. I will note As we're recording this here on Thursday, the total has come down a bit. But yeah, it's a tricky spot for me. I like 3 or 4 games more than this, but given that you're getting a discount on these Steelers, it's interesting. And I definitely think if you're going to say, okay, this is a spot the Jaguars play decently, their defense and Leonard Fournette's not a bad combo. So I could see both sides of it. Adam, final thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Steelers have been lights out in rush defense, and I want to play Leonard Fournette, man. I mean, they want to ride Leonard Fournette hard. It's just, I mean, from a matchup perspective, if you think defenses matter, I mean, Steelers are playing some serious ball, especially in rush defense and even in the secondary, man. I mean, they're just a really good team. But I do think Jacksonville plays well here. Like it would surprise me if Jacksonville got like trounced.
Let's move on to the Texans at Redskins here. The Redskins played pretty well last week, considering they had everyone go down on their offensive line. It was helped by the turnovers by Fitzpatrick, but now we have an interesting spot going against the Texans, who are definitely playing well. Really have taken a charge the last 6 games. What are the news and notes here, Adam, and what are you expecting from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Redskins got dominated last week in most categories except for scoring the football. I mean, they generate so many turnovers, and it's not really a fluke. Their defense is legit. But anyways, from a injury perspective, Chris Thompson is doubtful, not expecting him to play still. Jamison Crowder, questionable at best. From the Redskins side, like, Jordan Reed's price just keeps going down, 3,800 for a talented guy averaging 6.5 targets a game. The problem is he's being used like so brutally, like not involved at all in the red zone. All of his routes are just like flat routes. He's never going vertically. So it's tough to pull the trigger on Jordan Reed. I don't think he's bad though for 3,800, seeing 6+ targets per game. Other injury news, Kike Kute expected back. He'll play the slot role inside of DeAndre Hopkins and Demaryius Thomas. The way you've beaten the Redskins lately is with the opposite receiver of Josh Norman. So Josh Norman the last few weeks has done a really good job on DeAndre Hopkins, on Odell Beckham, on Mike Evans. The other guys have gotten loose though. In theory, that would be Demaryius Thomas if you think he has any juice left. And I think Kike Kute is maybe okay. And then the other play, Al, I think that you've alluded to is Deshaun Watson at 5,700, just very cheap for a guy with his rushing floor / ceiling combo in what I think is, like the Redskins defense is legit, but they can certainly be beat on the perimeter passing, and they're not like an unstoppable defense. So I'm fine with Deshaun Watson at 5,700.
They're a better defense against the run, really, than much else, right? So like you can beat them on the outside. Remember, what was it, 4 or 6 weeks ago? I was like, wow, Deshaun Watson's only 6,300, guys. We got to jump on this. And then he kind of got hurt, and he had a couple of meandering games, and now he's back fine and running the ball again and doing Deshaun Watson things. And he's 5,700.
Yeah. And coming off of a bye,
I really like Deshaun Watson again this week. Pair him with Hopkins. Have fun.
Totals come down in this game. I think the Redskins defense, that's what I thought they played well, especially in the red zone. I do Fitzmagic obviously made mistakes, but that really kept them alive, where I was with you, Adam. I thought the Redskins were dust last week, given their offensive line injuries and all the skill position players having issues and Alex Smith playing like Alex Smith. Their defense really bailed them out, and that's what's going to have to happen here. Texans are now a 3-point favorite. That's a key number that they moved to. I think Deshaun Watson's in play, but that's really it for me. Outside of Jordan Reed, who I probably will still sprinkle in. I mean, if you would have told me he was going to stay healthy all year and get down to 3,800, I mean, so hard to ignore that. But he's just been so bad. But yeah, this is a lower scoring game, and I think we can safely move on to the Titans at Colts. This game could be a sneaky shootout as well, but it is a division game. Titans coming off a huge win versus the Patriots. And the Colts are just playing good football, Adam.
Yeah, and I talked about on the solo pod, somebody asked a question about how DraftKings does their pricing. And, if you reverse engineer, you typically see that ownership has something to do with it. So I was pretty surprised that they left Dion Lewis at 4,800, considering how owned Dion Lewis was last week, considering Dion Lewis got another 20 touches. So people are going to want to play Melvin and Saquon and Zeke and CMC and DJ and Michael Thomas and Julio Odell. Like, I think Dion Lewis is going to be very popular again, even though he burned a lot of people last week. And I'm mostly okay with that. Like, Dion Lewis's touch projection is just way too high relative to the 4,800 tag. And you could argue that a lot of guys are underpriced in this game. Like Corey Davis, I think, is still underpriced at 5,600. T.Y. Hilton has been bad since he's been back from the hamstring issue, but it seems like he's healthy to me, and he might see a decent amount of Malcolm Butler in this game. And everywhere else on Tennessee is playing great except for Malcolm Butler. I mean, T.Y. Hilton at 6,100 at home on this fast track. I mean, I think that price really stands out too. So I think, Al, you can make a case that there's like a lot of players underpriced in this game. And usually when that happens, it makes for a reasonable game stack.
Yeah, so play Eric Ebron and score 3 touchdowns, right?
Yeah. I mean, let me give you the quick Ebron stats. You know,
Yep.
Ebron's playing like literally a third of the snaps, literally, and scoring 3 touchdowns.
Less
Like,
than half the snaps of Doyle last week.
Yeah, way less. Yeah, and Doyle's playing like every snap. It's just a situation that just like the typical thing that just tilts me, and I'll probably just ignore.
Pete, you've
Ebron
played
Jen-
craps with me in Vegas before, right?
Yeah, I've been craps.
Adam, you haven't. But have you ever shot craps before in your life, Adam?
I have, yes.
Okay, good.
My question is
So
that.
look, man, it's Adam. He might have had like a weird take, like, no, I don't, I don't shoot craps. I only play, Pai Gow.
Yeah. Oh,
Like he
I
could
don't.
have had one of the, and only the Pai Gow that has dominoes, not the card Pai Gow.
I do. Al's almost there. Like whenever I play those table games where I know that the casino has the best of it, I feel like sick in my stomach. Like, why am I giving these guys money?
I
But
only play Baccarat.
But I
It's
still-
like
Well,
I
Adam
figured
Levitan.
that was the case, but you're also a smell the roses guy, and you
Yeah.
know that craps is the best. I mean, unless you're counting cards or doing something else, craps is the best odds. I mean, I bet you've never sat at a slot machine very long, but
No.
Never.
craps with your friends, that's like there's a lot of entertainment ED, right?
Yeah, let's just go have some fun, right? So like when you go to a craps table, on the first roll, the come out roll, a lot of people like to bet 11, right? So, nickel yo, quarter yo, whatever. They throw some money on the 11. It doesn't happen. But you know what's often called and rarely bet? The second roll yo. You know who the second roll yo is this week? It's Dion Lewis. I'm betting on the flop lag. Give me the second roll yo. Dion Lewis, as Adam said, the volume is way too high for the amount of money that he's going to cost. Indianapolis has been a tough defense against running backs, but if you look at their DVP over the course of the entire season, but it's weakened recently, like 3.76 yards per carry in weeks 1 through 6, but the last 4 weeks, weeks 7 through 10, 4.34 yards per carry. It's a 15.4% jump. If you look and you sort by the last 4 weeks in terms of DVP, they're giving up more points per game to opposing running backs. This is a great spot again for Dion Lewis, and people are going to play that never again card and say, you know what? He burned me last week. I'm going somewhere else because, he's not going to get the touchdowns. They're all going to go to Henry. And then all of a sudden, Dion Lewis is probably going to get a touchdown this week. Probably going to run the ball a ton, get his 20 touches at 4,800, and I'll take 20 plus touches at 4,800 all day.
Yeah, this is the ultimate flop lag spot. We're on the same page here, Al. I think Dion Lewis is a great play. I think Doyle's a great play. I love T.Y. Hilton, and I love Andrew Luck. I mean, this is a game environment that I think can play well. The divisional aspect does scare me, but I still really, really like all these guys. And I think Corey Davis, we saw last week, even in a quote-unquote tough matchup, him just go absolutely ham. He's clearly the guy for Mariota. And you have to pay attention. I mean, Mariota, without the glove and actually being able to feel his hand, is making a pretty big impact. And he has rushing equity, and so does Andrew Luck. So I have no problem stacking up this game. There should be pretty nice pace. I hope people are chasing the points with like Derrick Henry and Ebron. Hopefully our opponents make those mistakes and we can, go after the guys who are on the field and getting volume. So I really like this spot, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. Hopefully other people are chasing their tail and you can capture the equity on the flop flag there. So let's move to the Panthers at Lions. Adam, what are the news and notes here? And this is a pretty high total. I'm surprised at how high this total is.
Yeah, I think a pretty big injury to watch is Marvin Jones' bone bruise on his knee. Currently not expecting him to play, and considering they just traded away Golden Tate, also they're really thin at wide receiver. Would expect it to be Kenny Golladay matching up with James Bradbury a lot. Certainly a matchup that Kenny Golladay can win. And then TJ Jones, who has been in the league a long time, hasn't done a lot, but hasn't really had opportunities because Detroit's wide receiver core has always been so deep. It would be thin, but TJ Jones against Dante Jackson, playing every snap, he's 3,300, would certainly come into play. Cam Newton is a really sweet play. I mean, yeah, we'll likely see Darius Slay on Devin Funchess, but every other corner for the Lions is just struggling so badly. So I think Cam to DJ Moore kind of GPP plays are certainly in play, and Cam just as a raw play, I think is one of the best quarterback plays we can find. And yeah, I want to play Christian McCaffrey every week. I mean, we've talked about it since the preseason. If you followed preseason, you knew Christian McCaffrey was going to be an absolute smash, and he's done nothing but smash all year. So he's an awesome play too. And then the last one I'll throw at you, Al, for your GPP, for your 150 teams. What we saw is Kerryon Johnson and Theo Riddick on the field a lot together, and Theo Riddick lining up as a slot guy a lot. Theo Riddick's only 4K, and if Marvin Jones misses, I mean, we can start pushing like 6, 7, 8 targets towards Theo Riddick. So that would be a GPP play if I was into the whole the lottery thing.
So I have a question for you, just because you brought something up. TJ Jones or red zone weapons Seth Roberts?
Yeah, we'll get to that. I mean,
I just want to know, no one versus the other.
God, I can't play Seth Roberts. I'll try
Who's
the new
the best
thing.
of the worst? Come on, Adam.
I'll try the new thing with TJ Jones before I try the old thing with Seth Roberts.
Okay. You brought up TJ Jones, so I had to ask.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Getting back to the good plays.
Yeah.
Cam Newton. He's really good. He's got 8 straight games with multiple touchdown passes. In 6 of those 8, he's had 7 rushes. So you get additional rushing touchdown upside, even though CMC has been soaking up all of the rushing touchdowns the last couple of weeks. That still exists for Cam. That's still in his locker that he can score rushing touchdowns. Shocker, I know. Detroit's been really bad, both offensively and defensively. Losing Golden Tate, I don't think harms their offense. I think it opens up more targets and touches and snaps for some other people, Galladay included. Kerryon Johnson, obviously one of them last week, getting more touches than I thought he would get in a situation with Riddick involved. He still got 20 touches last week. So if he's going to get 20 touches moving forward, that's great. And he's definitely playable at 5,800. But their offensive line has been so bad, and they're allowing sacks like it's their job. Their job is actually to do the opposite, but they're acting the other way. So Carolina, whose defensive front 7 can put some pressure on the opposing quarterback, are they a defense that we're overlooking this week because they're playing on the road?
I think it's a good play. I'm fine with it. I'm concerned with this Detroit offense, and I think the Theo Riddick call is really sharp. I mean, I would say the biggest struggle for Stafford since getting rid of Golden Tate is when, he has to get at the ball out of his hands quickly. He doesn't know where to go. Galladay is a down the field guy. Marvin Jones is a down the field guy. And I think they'll rely more on Theo Riddick, especially in the event that Jones is out. So I like the Theo Riddick call. I don't know about you boys, but I'm still just like seething with tilt after being all in on Cam, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, just the full-blown stack of the Carolina guys. And Arma runs in the touchdown, and they get that reverse to Curtis Samuel. I love Cam. I love Christian McCaffrey. I can see having both of them and being like, oh, good. I captured all of the touchdown upside for Carolina. I'm going to have exposure to all these touchdowns. And maybe that will happen. I don't know. I think Cam is probably my favorite cash game quarterback at this point, Adam, but I'm still tilted about that. Do you have any concern that they're going to do anything weird again?
Yeah, I mean, they're creative, but Cam...
They're a gadget. They're doing a lot of gadget plays.
Yeah, I get it. I still think Cam is strong. I think you can make a case that for 300 more, we can get to Drew Brees, but...
Drew Brees also has the gadget issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Taysom Hill equity.
The Taysom Hill equity, and Ingram is definitely a big factor as well. Any final thoughts here, boys?
I assume that you prefer Amari Cooper to Galladay because they're only 400 different.
I mean, Galladay's volume has to be concerning, right? Like, obviously,
it's yo-yoing up and down, like all over the place. How do you have a 10-target variance?
But with Marvin Jones potentially out, I think it would stabilize some.
Didn't we say the same thing when Golden Tate was out, and then he got 3 targets?
He got 4, yeah.
3 and 4 targets? I don't know. I love Galladay. Trust me. I've been playing with. I mean, Galladay and Tevin Coleman are probably the 2 guys that have cost me the most money this season. So I don't know. I like Galladay, and I will note. I mean, again, recording here Thursday, this total has screamed down, which makes sense given the injuries. But I think the sharpest point is the Lions' offensive line really struggling, and Theo Riddick, I think, is a really nice GPP play. All right, let's get to the afternoon games. We have the Broncos at Chargers. Chargers are playing awesome football, and we might have some big news and notes here, Adam.
Yeah, I believe you're referring to Joey Bosa. Hasn't practiced in like 6 months or something. I'd be surprised if he had a big role here. But yeah, this Chargers defense, even without him, has been playing great. Would scare me to play a guy like Phillip Lindsay, particularly with Royce Freeman expected back. the Courtland Sutton flop lag, I guess we could call it, I think is in play, but his target share has been, really low even since the trade. I guess it was only 1 or 2 games, but likely to see a lot of Casey Hayward, particularly when Emmanuel Sanders is in the slot. So we'll see there. I think the best raw play, and his price reflects it, is Melvin Gordon. 8,900 is obviously a lot to pay for Melvin Gordon, who I don't believe still hasn't topped 20 carries in a game. That said, Melvin Gordon's pass game role and touchdown expectation is so high. So I'm totally fine with Melvin Gordon. I don't think it's that big a difference between Saquon and Melvin Gordon. If Saquon's going to be massively higher owned, I'm not sure that'll be the case though. And Keenan Allen, Al, I've ended up playing Keenan Allen last week. I guess the one spot, and maybe Peter knows better, the one spot where the Broncos still are really strong on defense should be at slot corner with Chris Harris, and that's where Keenan Allen lines up. So Keenan Allen is cheap. I believe he's like 6,700 or something.
67, yeah.
It's cheap from a straight matchup perspective, though. It's not the best, but I still think Keenan Allen will see his 8-9 targets, and he's just a really good player.
And Chris Harris is really good, and that's something that I mentioned in Best Buys because, sneak preview, I did write up Keenan Allen in Best Buys this week. And I mentioned that, look, the matchup is tough, but I still think that even if he's less efficient with his targets going up against Chris Harris, he's still going to get a lot of targets in this situation. I would be shocked if he only got like 4 or 5 targets here. I think 7 to 9 is way more acceptable, and 7 to 9 targets with a player on an offense as good as this one at 6,700 is fine. Now, Denver's blitzing a ton because they just aren't really that good against the run, really. So Melvin Gordon also in play at 8,900. The interesting thing for me, Adam, and you kind of mentioned this, you said that Melvin Gordon hasn't gotten 20 touches yet. 20 carries yet in a game. I prefer this role than if he was like, the previous role where he would get like 22, 23 carries, but like 3, maybe 4 targets. Give me 18 carries and 6 or 7 targets. Give me the Saquon Barkley 14, 15 carries and 10 targets. On DraftKings scoring, you give me 25 touches, but 75% of them are on the ground and 25% are through the air. Way more equity in terms of DraftKings scoring. So give me this role as opposed to like the Nick Chubb role at the same price, right? If Nick Chubb was like 8K and Melvin Gordon was 8,500, it's a slam dunk to play the guy who has way more involvement in the passing game.
Yeah. Keenan Allen is too cheap. I've played him a lot this year. I would say the biggest risk, and it certainly could come to fruition in this spot, is that the Chargers just get way out in front, and then they're running Gordon and Eckler, and they're playing a more conservative style. I do think if Bosa plays, that's a big upgrade, even if he plays in a limited fashion. I saw Chargers tweeting about it. He's a massive difference maker, even if he's only playing on third downs. We'll see what happens. He may or may not play, but this is one of those games where it's in the division. The Broncos are pathetic on offense. I love Courtland Sutton, but this matchup is tough. Maybe he eats some garbage time. I'm most attracted to playing Chargers defense and Melvin Gordon. I think that's the stack you want, but it's expensive. So that's the downside. Do you think the Broncos coming off a bye can play well in this spot? I'm biased, but I think the Broncos are just kind of dusty at this point this season.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this game was close. I don't know. That would really surprise you? They're bad.
Not close, but I don't know. They just have been so bad. I just don't trust their offense.
Yeah. I don't think we can move on until Pete talks about Manny Sanders.
Yeah.
We can't go on with the podcast. You did not mention him.
Trust me. Things will be good in the household for me if Manny Sanders can get in the red zone and score a touchdown, get in the end zone. But, Courtland Sutton is the guy I'm rooting for more than him. It just I'm concerned about the matchup here. I really want to see down the stretch Courtland Sutton go off. I just think this is a tougher spot. So Phillip Rivers isn't in consideration. I think you get exposure to him through Keenan Allen. Melvin Gordon and the defense are really the guys I like. The one other play, if you want to go, for the lottery type payouts, Mike Williams, 3,600, or your boy Tyrell out.
I hear you. Like thinking that Chris Harris is going to take out Keenan Allen so they get a little more work funneled outside to them.
I believe Mike Williams is 3,600, and obviously he's not seeing the same amount of snaps and targets, but he can catch that really long touchdown. And this is a spot against this Broncos team. Their secondary has been pathetic. All right, let's go to the Raiders at Cardinals, and finally, David freaking Johnson is back, Al. So we'll leave the David Johnson analysis for Al. But what are the news and notes here, Adam?
Yeah, Martavis Bryant is out. Jordy Nelson is banged up. And as Al alluded to earlier, if Jordy can't go, the starting wide receivers for the Raiders will be Brandon LaFell and Seth Roberts.
Don't laugh when you said put some respect on his name.
Yeah, it's just there. And I mean, Patrick Peterson out there. It's just like,
you think Patrick Peterson's going to shadow Seth Roberts?
No, but he'll be out there.
When you're facing a weapon like Seth Roberts, you have to have Patrick Peterson shadow him.
Yeah, I mean, if the Cardinals are going to play well and smash somebody, which I'm not sure they're capable of, this would obviously be the spot to do it, and that would lead you down the David Johnson path, which Al was going to talk about. The play for me that I alluded to earlier at tight end, and I think will end up being very popular by the end of the week. Ricky Seals-Jones ran 40 routes on 40 Josh Rosen dropbacks last week. Ricky Seals-Jones was a guy that we talked about a ton in the preseason, just like a really athletic guy with this every down role, former wide receiver back in high school and early part of his college career. I mean, he's 2,900. So if you're looking to punt off at tight end, all three of us actually punted off at tight end last week. I took the air ball with Vernon Davis. I think Al got 1 point from Ben Watson, and Pete got 6 from...
It was an exciting point, though. It was a very exciting point. It had to go to review.
I had to pivot. Truth be told, people looking at the teams, I had Aaron Rodgers in there, and I had a much different team, and I had to pivot after playing freaking Jarvis Landry and Hunt in the flex.
Right.
So, lots of mistakes were made last week.
Very professional lineup from Pete last week.
Let's swap it out. Yeah, exactly.
He's posted at the 10. He's posted at 10Ks. Go ahead and take the guy who's not playing his latest player in the flex in the 10Ks. But anyways, back to this game. Ricky,
you'd be shocked how often that happens in those stakes. But yes, it is bad.
Yeah, you should get action. Actually, I notice sometimes when I lose a week, I'll get way more action the next week. But anyways, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I'll get to David Johnson because obviously he's only 7,500 and has seen a pretty significant role change.
I mean, he's seen the fourth most touches per game of any player in the league since week 4, 21.7 touches per game. That's more than Melvin Gordon, more than Barkley, and more than Hunt on a per game basis. Oakland allowing the third most rush yards per game this season in the league with 141. Oakland is also the worst team in the league in terms of limiting running backs in terms of yards before contact at 3.23. If you let David Johnson get into the second level, he's going to make some things happen. If you involve him in the passing game, he's going to make some things happen. Last week, they got him involved. Look what happened. He scored multiple touchdowns. This is an absolute dream spot for him. Yes, the price has come up from under 6K to 7,500. Fine. RSJ, also a really good play at 2,900. To me, if you're punting, it's between him and O'Shaughnessy. If you're looking for a sub 3K tight end to go after. But look, the Raiders know it, guys. We've been saying it for years on this podcast. When you have a weapon like Seth Roberts, you have to make Jordy retire and you have to trade Amari Cooper. These are the things you have to do in order to clear space for Seth Roberts. If you can't tell, I'm being somewhat sarcastic, but he's minimum salary.
Is he stone 3K?
He is the stone minimum.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So I have a lot to unpack on this game. First of all, in a high equity spot in Survivor, and the most likely play is the Cardinals. Can't take the Chargers. Can't take. I guess it really comes down to who do you guys feel more comfortable with, Falcons or Cardinals? The reason to be bullish on the Cardinals in this spot, I mean, I don't know if anyone saw, again, hashtag watch the tape. Derek Carr on fourth down, game's on the line. He grounds it straight into the ground.
Just arm punt it, throw it in the air. Just
he could literally just throwing it up in the end zone would have been way better. Just lose the game throwing it straight into the ground.
If there's 16 players running around, just throw it up in the air. Maybe one of your guys comes down. It would have been better than just throwing it directly into the ground.
Yeah, it was so bad. So the Raiders with John Gruden, Seth Roberts, Derek Carr, everything, they just are looking like a total dumpster fire right now. The Cardinals, they looked like a dumpster fire all season until this coaching change, and I am encouraged. I mean, David Johnson finally being utilized as a receiver, Ricky Seals-Jones out there getting a ton of routes like Adam mentioned, Larry Fitzgerald getting the ball finally healthy, Rosen improving. I think this is a good spot. The one thing that saved me in the industry last week was David Johnson. Had a lot of exposure to him. I'll have a lot of exposure again. I think it's a really, really good spot. I'm not going to play anyone on the Raiders. Maybe Seth Roberts in like a mini game stack if you wanted to do that. But what about the Arizona defense? What do you guys think about them? I think that's one other play that definitely stands out.
Yeah. That Arizona defense is my favorite defense on the week. They're 3,100. I've typically been spending less, but yeah, I mean, Arizona defense is awesome. The one thing I'll say about David Johnson is like, I wanted to poke holes in him by being like, well, these two good games with Leftwich came against San Francisco and the Chiefs. But now this game is home against the Raiders.
It's even worse.
Right? Yeah. So like, I can't even like.
I don't even know whis matchup is next week, but I'm sure it'll be a fade. Like once he gets back in David Johnson, territory.
There are no holes to poke.
Right. That's the whole thing. So yeah, and I think like even though they lost to Kansas City, like going to Arrowhead and hanging tough for a lot of the game, I think will give them some momentum. So yeah, the only other guy I have on my list here I didn't mention for the lotteries, Al, is Christian Kirk, who I've been a sucker for Christian Kirk's talent, and now like this matchup just cannot get any better. And obviously I'm always looking to fade Larry Fitzgerald if you think that Josh Rosen can play well here, which, is a bit of a stretch, but if you do, I mean, Christian Kirk continues to play a ton and hasn't had a chance to break one yet, but if you're going to break one against Oakland, I think it makes sense.
I mean, he does have solid volume, right? Like it's not like superstar volume. That's not what I'm saying, but he's getting like 6 or 7 targets pretty much every week.
Yeah.
Who has a better percent chance at 3xing their salary this week? Christian Kirk or the weapon, Seth Roberts?
Seth Roberts, he's 3K.
Yeah, Seth Roberts only needs 9 points. They're going to be losing. Christian Kirk needs, what's 3x, like 14 points or something?
I just wanted you to say it.
You're going to have people actually playing. People are going to listen to this. They don't really know what they're doing, and then they're actually going to play Seth Roberts.
No, look, he's a tournament, like, hopeful, like you're saying. He's a lottery ticket sort of play. Like, okay, you're rationalizing why he's an okay play at the salary because of the amount of snaps he could or should play in the case that Jordy Nelson is out, right? And he should play a ton of snaps, should see 4, 5, 6, 7 targets, and like you said, at 3K, and his historically his red zone inclusion on this Raiders team from Derek Carr for whatever reason, because he is not good from a like PFF grading standpoint, but he's always involved.
All right, we need to move on because we have the best game, but what are the percent chance that you have Seth Roberts in the 4-man, Al?
None. There's no need.
0.0%
chance I have him in the 4-man.
All right, there's some leverage.
I can get everybody I want without him.
Maybe I'll have Seth Roberts.
Leverage play.
All right, the last game on the slate, it's a hammer. It's a play all the dudes spot. We have the Eagles at Saints. I mean, maybe we just, the podcast is starting to run a little long. Maybe we just end it here, play all the dudes, and give our conviction plays. Right?
See you guys later.
See ya.
Yeah, I think one of the big stories going into this game is how banged up the Eagles secondary is. I mean, we know Rodney McLeod's been out, which I think really, really hurt this team. And then Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby are both going to miss this game. Maybe they get Sidney Jones back, but he's been struggling so bad anyways. And when your team is already a funnel defense, like nobody even tries to run against the Eagles. They don't want to run against the Eagles. Everybody just throws against them. Now you go to the Superdome to face Breeze and Michael Thomas and Traquan and Kamara, etc. Like, to me, this is just maybe one of the best possible spots I could draw up for Michael Thomas and Breeze. And that's particularly because I expect like the Eagles to move the ball well on offense, like Carson Wentz is playing at a higher level than he did last year. So yeah, I think that it's a really good spot for the Saints pass game. For some reason, DraftKings did not adjust the price on Mark Ingram, even though we know he's going to get 12 to 15 carries and 2 to 4 targets. He's only 4,700. The Aguilar versus Tate situation is interesting. If you read the usage article I did, Golden Tate only played on 18 out of 62 snaps last week. That allowed Nelson Aguilar to play a ton and kind of maintain his slot role. I think that Golden Tate will play more this week, but still, like, Nelson Aguilar is only 4,100. He's still, I think, going to play above Jordan Matthews, so he'll be out there a ton. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like we kind of know where to go, right? Like the Eagles' rush game is a total avoid. And we know that the Saints are going to have a ton of success throwing the football. So I think it's pretty clear where to go here. And it's for sure, I mean, not even close to me. Like, think about this, Al. Like, there's no Patriots, Chiefs, Rams, Vikings, Packers on this slate. Like, to me, the Saints offense stands like head and shoulders above every other offense on this slate.
It does. And you're completely right. And, some people may not have noticed, but some people probably have, is that, like, I've been trying real hard this whole podcast to fire Adam up because, like, I know I can get Pete fired up. And fired up Pete podcasts are always good, but I can never get Adam fired up. See, he just starts giggling. Like, I can't get him fired up. So, like, let me give it one more shot. Are we still going to pretend that Traquan Smith is an actual thing? He's played 99 snaps the last 2 games and has amassed a total of 3 targets. Adam?
I wrote about Traquan Smith in the article.
See, he just laughs.
I mean, it's sad. He played every snap last week and got 0 targets. Drew Brees only had 25 attempts. I think in this game we can project Drew Brees for like 35 attempts. And maybe that's aggressive, but I think we can. So yeah, Traquan, to me, if I was playing the lotteries again, I would play Brees, Traquan stacks. But Traquan would be part of my Brees stacks for sure.
Okay, I'm asking a question of both of you here. Alshon Jeffrey at 6,300 or Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is 6,200.
Jeffrey
for me, but what about T.Y. Hilton at 6,100?
Yeah, also in play. I kind of think that Jeffrey's my favorite one out of that trio with Emmanuel Sanders second, for whatever reason. I don't know why I'm feeling that order for that trio, but I think it's just priced properly.
I held him first out of that group just for what it's worth.
I think the best argument for Alshon to me is game environment. Like, you could see, like, and that's so huge. I think people, don't look at it enough, game environment. This could be just awesome.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So Drew Brees at home, like we've talked in the past about Drew Brees' home road splits. They're back. 29 points per game in the dome versus 21 on the road. You've mentioned already this podcast that they do run the gadget plays a lot once they get around the end zone, around the red zone, inside the 10. You also mentioned they're limiting his throws. He's not throwing it 40 or 50 times a game anymore. He's just not. He's being tremendously efficient with the throws that he does have. We're seeing that play itself out with Michael Thomas, who is my favorite play in this game. He is pricey. I think you can get to him without doing much. Like, I don't think, without stretching too much, I think you can get to him and 2 of the jam-em-in running backs in a lineup without playing Seth Roberts. That's why I was saying, you don't need to go to Seth Roberts for the 4-man. You can get him anyway. The pricing is just that way. But I'm going to want to have some exposure to this game in my cash games, and I think the highest floor guy is not Alvin Kamara this week. I think that it's Michael Thomas.
All right, you guys haven't even mentioned the best play in this whole game.
Zach Ertz?
Yeah. I mean, Zach Ertz is basically the same price. He's 300 more than Jeffrey, 400 more than Emmanuel Sanders. Ertz already has 75 catches on the season.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Ertz is 6,600. He is going to get the ball a ton in this game. I mean, I get it. I want to spend down at tight end too. I love Ricky Seals-Jones. I think in general, with how many good running backs there are and the receivers we want to play, RSJ is definitely the guy I'm looking at. But man, going all the way up to Zach Ertz at 6,600, he's going to see double-digit targets, assuming he stays healthy. I mean, I think he is hands down the best play in this game from a fantasy points per dollar standpoint. I love Michael Thomas as well. He's averaging about 3 points more than Zach Ertz on the season. I mean, Zach Ertz is averaging almost 22 fantasy points per game this season.
He's ridiculous.
He's 6,600.
Can I be Twitter? Can I be Twitter though for a second? But Pete, the Saints allow the 5th least points against opposing tight ends on the season. What about the matchup?
Defense doesn't matter.
Yeah. Hashtag defense doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, the Saints are a good defense, but this is a perfect game environment, and I love the way freaking Ertz and Wentz are playing together. I mean, that's a clear, just amazing connection. It just really comes down to the opportunity cost. I mean, RSJ is a great punt, but yeah, would you rather have like an Ertz, Seth Roberts, or RSJ, Jeffrey? Like that's a kind of a 2 versus 2.
Yeah, I think Ertz, Seth Roberts is the better combo out of those 2.
Adam?
Yeah, we could have a Bible narrative here. Ertz and Wentz are both extremely religious. They go to like Bible study like every day together. So that could be the connection here. It's very close to the shower narrative, actually, the Bible narrative.
Wow. Okay, shifting that real quick. This is really where Adam comes in to tell us about how defense versus position is extremely noisy against tight ends. Not talking about naked religion things.
Yeah, shower and Bible. Nice work.
Yeah. So tell us about how noisy DVP is here, Adam. Let's pivot quickly.
Yeah, if you're looking too closely at that stuff, it's so noisy because you don't know who the Saints have played at tight end, et cetera, et cetera. If they had shut down like a bunch of good tight ends, that'd be one thing, but there are no good tight ends in the league anymore.
Is there a bunch of good tight ends in the league?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that would be, I mean, Ertz is so good. I have Ertz on a dynasty team and I gave up. I traded away all my good players, but kept Ertz, and now I'm gonna make the playoffs because I have Ertz. I should have kept all my players.
He had double-digit targets in every game, but two. His worst game was against Jacksonville, where he had 6 targets. I mean, the guy is just a freak. I mean, obviously, people are gonna play him more this week because he's coming off, a game that everyone saw versus Dallas, where he goes for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns, 43 DraftKings points. But man, he is a really, really good play. The Golden Tate thing, though, I mean, that could impact Ertz. That could impact Jeffrey. I definitely think if they can get him utilized correctly, it's going to help Wentz and potentially make this game more of a shootout. But that's the really hard thing to decipher. I expect they're going to play more snaps given they gave up a draft pick for him, but that's the real question. And I do think long-term it will impact Ertz and especially Aguilar a little bit negatively.
Yeah. Totally agree. My only question here before we move on, Mark Ingram is 4,700 and Dion Lewis is 4,800. Obviously, Dion Lewis is going to get a lot more touches. I don't think it's that crazy to expect so much better efficiency from Mark Ingram in this offense and touchdown equity from Mark Ingram that I don't think Mark Ingram is that far behind Dion Lewis, I guess is what I'm saying. Is that crazy?
It's not crazy. I like the spot for Mark Ingram last week better than I like this spot.
Definitely.
Al?
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm with you on that. I believe that Lewis is a better play than Mark Ingram, but that doesn't mean that I think that Lewis is an amazing play and Ingram is crap. There's shades of gray here, guys. So Ingram, a good play. Lewis, to me, a slightly better play.
Last question. Carson Wentz and cash. Where does he rank for you guys?
It would be behind Cam Newton for me.
That's where I have him currently, but I could be talked into some Carson Wentz. He's playing. I love Carson Wentz.
I've got him behind a lot of guys.
Okay. All right. With that, Adam, you'll give your conviction play. I'll give mine, and then we'll toss it to Al to get out of here.
Yeah, all right.
Conviction / lottery / whatever you want to call it play.
Yeah. Adam's potpourri play.
Yeah, don't forget against the listener league if they feel it. We do have on good authority, as we mentioned at the top, that they will # make it bigger. For my conviction play, I'll just take the layup here, man, because I'm tired of this conviction play, bold call play, etc. Michael Thomas, to me, has been so good in mediocre matchups and bad matchups and good matchups. Wide receivers against the Eagles are just the best matchup because nobody even wants to try to run against them. Everybody just wants to throw, and they do it on such an efficient basis because their secondary is so bad. Here in the Superdome, where I expect the Eagles to keep up with the Saints, I mean, Michael Thomas is going to get 9, 10, 11, 12 targets, has a huge red zone role, second in the league behind DeAndre Hopkins in targets inside the 10. So I know Michael Thomas is the most expensive wide receiver on the slate. That doesn't mean he's not the best wide receiver on the slate. Yeah,
totally agree with Michael Thomas. I think he's a lock button for cash. I'll stay in the same game. Just talked a ton about Zach Ertz. It's a combination play because I do think in cash there's a lot of arguments to play RSJ or a cheaper tight end. But, man, Zach Ertz in this game environment shouldn't go off. I think that you want to buy targets, you want to buy touches. We've always talked about opportunity on this podcast, and no tight end is seeing more opportunity. And if you compare Zach Ertz to the other mid-6 receivers, he's clearly the play. So I love Zach Ertz this week. And Zach Ertz, Michael Thomas, nice little game stack to play all the dudes in the late hammer, Smiths.
Adam wouldn't do it. Pete wouldn't do it. But God damn it, I'm going to do it. Amari Cooper is my conviction play for over 15 DraftKings points this weekend. I couldn't fire up Adam. I did get Pete fired up. We're going to have a fun weekend this week on DraftKings. That's my conviction play. Hopefully Emmanuel Sanders can score himself a touchdown and Pete can get into the end zone himself. But for Adam and for Pete, I'm Al. I'm out.
We are promoters at DraftKings and also avid fans. Our usernames are Adam Levitan, Al Smizzle, and CSU Ram 88. We may sometimes play on our personal accounts in the games that we offer advice on. Although we have expressed our personal view on the games and strategies in this podcast, they do not necessarily reflect the views of DraftKings, and we also may deploy different players and strategies than what we recommended in this podcast.